On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
I you gotta adapt. That's life. Life is all about changing, evolving, adapting. It has to happen, and if not, you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah. Um, Me personally, I think that the only vow you should have is just make sure you guys stick it out for the long haul. That should be the only vow. I mean, I can count on my
Right.
hands how many times I see people really breaking down bits and pieces of what they're going to do. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
we all have different experiences, and we may experience something that we would have never thought that we would experience. But if you remember in the very beginning, we said that no matter what we're going through, that we're going to stick it out. Then again, that's all that matters. So I think
That's what I'm
change,
talking about, Jr.
yeah, I think that change is always necessary in life, especially if you're looking to grow. You know, I want to
Yep.
be better than what I was 5 minutes ago.
So I would try until there was no more try in me for that. Because if we're talking about things like severe addictions to drugs or to gambling, that can lead to a lot of other problems, not just interpersonally. But he loses the house and now we're all homeless. Whatever the case may be, whatever, I can't even think of it, but having dealt with people who are on drugs, that's a real tough one because sometimes they can't get out of it until they reach rock bottom, whatever rock bottom is for them. And you really can't love people out of a drug addiction. You have to really help them out of it. Your love for them doesn't really get them out. They have to actually go through whatever it is that's driving that. So in terms of a marriage, me personally, I would try again until there is no try, until there absolutely, I cannot, we've exhausted everything that we can possibly do to try to get you the help that you need. But at the same time, I'm suffering, or me and the children are truly suffering because of this. I may have to love you from a distance. I may have to love you from a distance and probably continue to help you. Even if we ended up, unfortunately, in some type of divorce, which I don't really like divorces or really believe in them. But even if we ended up in that space, my love for him would still prompt me to want to help him.
That's fair. I appreciate it.
All right. Rella, should the marriage adapt to changes or refrain firm with their vows?
So again, for me, I'm going to speak as a divorced man, and I just like to give that caveat first because a lot of what I learned in those 10 years that I was married, and since then, and again, even coming into this space and coming on the platform, I'm doing things a lot differently now. And I've said this on the show before, and I love that Crimson kind of spoke on it, is about getting married under false pretenses, right? So like for me, I didn't get married, honestly. I got married because I had a son, and I had to make an honest woman of her, right? So that means, what does that mean? When changes came, there was no solid foundation. So, it wasn't built on a rock. It was built on sand. So when the winds came, when the storm came, when things started shaking and getting wobbly, and I definitely wasn't the best version of myself then the marriage dissolved. It dissolved, right? So part of remaining firm to your vows is having that foundation. The vows are some of the things that you talk about in counseling, in couples counseling, in therapy, or premarital therapy, so to speak. But it should be ongoing conversations that y'all having anyway, right? As the man, as you're casting the vision. So now, as the man, because that's what I'm doing now, is building that foundation. So now, when those changes come, because I think, as humans, we all evolve, we all grow, and hopefully we're all evolving to become the better versions of ourselves, right? And so when that happens, you have something firm to stand on that's going to sustain you. So whether it's you getting knocked down and you go bankrupt and lose everything, or whatever the storm, it could be a number of things, right? If you're building it on a solid foundation, which is staying true and firm on those vows, it doesn't matter what change comes. You'll be able to stand on it. And that's what I'm building.
Okay. Same question.
How come it stopped going across? But across the bottom, I mean. But I definitely think that people should adapt. Like, we can't complain about divorce rates and then be like, don't adapt. Like, people change over time. That's just what it is. Now, in terms of like abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, like those types of things, I definitely don't think someone should stick around forever for. But outside of those extreme cases of abuse, whether it be physical, emotional, psychological, whatever, if you're going to get married, you should be ready to adapt and change and see what's going on with your person to make it last. And if you don't want to, that's fine, but just don't get married. Like, I just think that it's weird that some people will be like, oh my goodness, the divorce rates. But then also, like, you shouldn't have to adapt. Stick to those vows from when you were 22. Like, you're not going to be the same at 22 as you are at 60. Like, it's just not the case. And if you are, that's another issue that needs to maybe be discussed with someone. So yeah, I definitely think that marriages, people within marriages should adapt to changes, because trying to remain firm to some vows you made maybe 10 years ago, 50 years ago, however many years ago that you've been married, I mean, I don't I don't know. I think that the overarching umbrella of vows, in terms of just like, sticking with each other, being there for each other, not abusing each other, not saying those are part of like the regular vows that you hear, but whatever. Those types of things, yeah, stick to those. But I don't know. I don't know. You gotta adapt. That's life. Life is all about changing, evolving, adapting. It has to happen. And if not, you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah. Me personally, I think that the only vow you should have is just make sure you guys stick it out for the long haul. That should be the only vow. I mean, I can count on my
Right.
hands how many times I see people really breaking down bits and pieces of what they're going to do. We all have different experiences, and we may experience something that we would have never thought that we would experience. But if you remember in the very beginning, we said that no matter what we're going through, that we're going to stick it out, then again, that's all that matters. So I think
That's what I'm
change,
talking about, JR.
yeah, I think that change is always necessary in life, especially if you're looking to grow. I want to be better than what I was 5 minutes ago.